Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're ditching the textbooks and grabbing our detective hats because we're about to crack the case of academic research.
You know that feeling, right? Staring at a totally blank page, just feeling lost in this giant sea of information. Yeah, we've all been there. It can feel super overwhelming.
But here's the good news. It really doesn't have to be. Actually, by the end of this, you're going to feel less like a stressed out student and way more like a detective who's building a solid case. So think of this explainer as your brand new field guide.
So here's the plan. We're going to master research in 3 really memorable stages. First up is the hunt. That's where we find our clues. Then the filter, where we vet our witnesses. And finally, the weave, which is all about building our argument. Easy, right?
All right, let's dive right in. Our investigation kicks off with part 1, the hunt. This is all about learning how to strategically track down the best clues.
Okay, so first things first, every good detective has to know their evidence. You've got 2 main types. Primary sources, think of these as your first-hand witnesses. We're talking original materials, like letters, artifacts, or raw data. Then you have secondary sources. These are like the expert analyses from other detectives who've already interviewed those witnesses. You know, things like textbooks or scholarly articles. A really strong case, well, it needs both.
So, how do you even begin to tackle that huge sea of information? Well, whatever you do, don't just dive in head first. You want to use what's called the funnel approach. You start really broad, maybe with some textbooks, just to get the lay of the land. Then, you start to narrow your focus to more specific articles, and you keep going until, bam, you've found that core evidence you've been looking for.
Okay, awesome. You've hunted down a whole pile of potential clues. But wait, are they all actually useful? This is where the filter comes in. It's time to learn how to separate the gold from, well, the gravel.
Every great detective has a trusty toolkit for checking their evidence. And now, you have one too. We're going to break down 4 simple but super powerful questions you need to ask for every single source you find.
First up, is it even relevant? I mean, does this source actually help answer the core question you're trying to figure out? Let's say you're researching health effects on adults. If you find this amazing article, but it's about children, well, no matter how great it is, you got to set it aside. It's just not your case.
Next, we got to check. Is it authoritative? This means you have to do a little investigating on the author. Are they a known expert? Do they work for a legit place, like a university or a big research organization? Credibility, folks, is absolutely key.
All right, then you have to check for balance. Does this source give you a fair, objective look at things? Or is it kind of pushing a specific agenda? Look, a really strong source is never afraid to talk about different points of view.
And last but not least, is it timely? This one's huge, especially in fields that move super fast, like tech or medicine. Information can get old like yesterday. So you've got to always check that publication date to make sure your evidence is still good.
Okay, on to the final step, the weave. This is the really cool part. It's where we take all those clues we've carefully checked and start building them into one compelling case.
So, when it comes to presenting your evidence, you basically have 2 main tools in your belt. You can quote someone directly using their exact words. That's perfect when the language is really powerful or precise. But honestly, most of the time, you're going to paraphrase. That just means putting their ideas into your own words. And paraphrasing is great because it shows you really get the material, and it lets you weave it smoothly into your own argument.
And speaking of weaving things in, this brings us to the absolute golden rule. Always give credit where it's due. Seriously, using someone else's ideas without saying where you got them, that's plagiarism, and it's a huge deal academically. So just remember, always cite your sources.
And here's a pro tip. Don't just drop your evidence into your writing out of nowhere. You have to introduce it with purpose. And the verbs you choose, they're like little signals to your reader. If you say an author notes something, that's pretty neutral. But if you say they argue a point, that signals disagreement. And if they demonstrated a result, that highlights a big finding. See? The right verb puts you in control of the story you're telling. And there you have it. Just like that, you've gone from investigator to expert. You know, this whole framework, it isn't just for research papers. It's basically a superpower for critical thinking in general. All you have to do is remember those 3 simple steps. You hunt for your sources like a pro, you filter them like a critic, and you weave them into your argument like a master storyteller.
And if there's one thing you take away today, let it be this. Your goal is not to find the most information out there. Your goal is to build the strongest possible case. When it comes to research, quality will always, always beat quantity.
So yeah, this whole process, it's your new superpower. It gives you the power to cut through all the noise, find the real facts, and build arguments that actually matter. That blank page isn't scary anymore. Now it's a crime scene, and you're the lead detective. So, my only question is, what case are you going to crack first?